Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yasuranandana Brajajanadandana Yasuranandana Brajajanadandana Yamunatira Bonachari Yamunatira Bonachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Janna Ballabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Bonachariya Yamunatira Bonachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sri Radha Madhava ki jai, Sri Radha Giridhari ki jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Puri Vrajaka Jaja Shudra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Puri Vrajaka Jaja Shudra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace. Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, ISKCON founder Acharya, BBT founder Acharya, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samveda Bhakti ki jai, Go Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, assembled devotees, all glories, Sisi, Guru and Sri Gauranga. Very interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the calendar you sent to me, I'm speaking on 45 today. 45? On the calendar over there.
Well, I've been gone for the last few years.
Has things been adjusted because Maharaj gave that special talk and so on?
Well, yeah.
What does it say 45 on the calendar?
30 to 40.
Today.
30. What verse is
39 to 40.
So this is 39, Brāhmaṇas,
Yeah. I read
up through 29, I believe.
Hmm.
I did classes today.
Okay.
And, I don't know, maybe I'm just paying attention.
Yeah, we definitely read through 29. So you start on 30 and then we'll chant 39 together. Read all 30 to
And what about
48.
45? What's the question? He's wondering about the calendar.
Yeah, you have text 30 through 40.
Okay.
And 39 is the road.
30 through 40.
But he was
It says 39.
the calendar, it says 45.
I thought it said 45.
I think you has the updated one. Because the one on the book.
Send me the updated one.
But we chant 39. We've done it. We wrote it.
Yeah, we got it. We'll go to 30. It says 39 through 40. That's what we do today, right?
No.
Okay.
30, 39. Through 40, 30 to 40.
Okay, so there's a bunch, and then but 39 is the one with the purport. Okay, we can handle that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so reading a bunch of text today, all the way up to 39. Should I just read the translation or Sanskrit also? Okay. Vartante kartike masi triratram samuposhitaha snata kadachit kalindyam harim madhuvane rachayat. In the month of Kartik, after observing that vow for 1 year, after observing a fast for 3 nights, and after bathing in the Jamuna, Maharaj Ambarīṣa worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, and Madhuvan. Next verse, we'll read the English. Following the regulated principles of Maha-Abhishek, Maharaj Ambarīṣa performed the bathing ceremony for the deity of Lord Krishna with all paraphernalia, and then he dressed the deity with fine clothing, ornaments, fragrant flower garlands, and other paraphernalia for worship of the Lord. With attention and devotion, he worshipped Krishna and all the greatly fortunate Brāhmaṇas who were free from material desires. I remember hearing a recent account of Srila Prabhupada. Trying to think who was giving the class, but what it was with Prabhupada in his room, and he got a letter. He got a letter from this couple, I don't know, in America or South America, and they're expressing, they're thanking Srila Prabhupada so much for giving them Krishna consciousness and so on, and how much they're struggling just with their jobs and the regulative principles, but struggling very, very hard to chant and to read and be Krishna conscious. And the devotee was saying, Prabhupada looked at that and he started to cry. And Prabhupada was just thinking how the Westerners have so many impediments, but they're still trying to become Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada was thinking about that. And then the evening he had darshan. This was in India, like Calcutta or Bombay or something. And there are so many of these Indians there who grew up in Vaishnava families, businessmen, and very well-to-do. And they grew up in this culture. So for them, following the regulative principles of this, is not difficult. But still, Prabhupada looked at him and said, well, he mentioned the letter. He said, but what are you doing? And he pointed out one gentleman who, which is the custom, very well to do, but they have a beautiful temple in their mansion, but they hire Brahmins to do the puja. And Prabhupada said, why don't you do the puja like Maharaj Ambarīṣa, like here? He's the king. He could, just get some Brahmin to do the puja. But Ambarīṣa himself, out of devotion, he personally bathed the deities, personally dressed the deities. He's actually a great devotee. So he was asking these other life members and so on to step up, and because for them it's easy, being a vegetarian and coming to the temple and so on like that. And so many people are struggling. So why don't you step it up a little bit? Take on some more responsibility and difficulty. And also, this one gentleman, he said, why don't you should be worshiping the deity yourself? Why are you hiring some Brahmin to do it? So this will just remind me of that pastime. This next. Here we go. Thereafter, Maharaj Ambarīṣa satisfied all the guests who arrived at his house, especially the Brāhmanas. He gave in charity 60 crores of cows whose horns were covered with gold plate and whose hooves were covered with silver plate. All the cows were well decorated with garments and had full milk bags. They were mild-natured, young and beautiful, and were accompanied by their calves. After giving these cows, the king first sumptuously fed all the Brāhmanas, and when they were fully satisfied, he was about to observe the end of ISKCON with their permission by breaking the fast. Exactly at that time, however, Durvāsā Muni, the great, powerful mystic, appeared on the scene as an uninvited guest. That's a lot of cows. After standing up to receive Durvāsā Muni, King Ambarīṣa offered him a seat and paraphernalia of worship. Then, sitting at his feet, the king requested the great sage to eat. Durvāsā Muni gladly accepted the request of Mahārāja Ambarīṣa, but to perform the regulative ritualistic ceremonies, he went to the river Jamuna. There he dipped into the water of the auspicious Jamuna and meditated upon the impersonal Brahman. In the meantime, only a muhurta of the Dvādaśī day was left, that's about an hour and a half, on which to break the fast. Consequently, it was imperative that the fast be broken immediately. He asked Dravida Prabhu to look at the calendar and let him know, like he does every Dvādaśī, when we should break the fast. In this dangerous situation, the king consulted learned Brahmins. Okay. And this is it. Okay. Now, I guess we just chant one verse together, right? Yeah.
You could just read, since you prepared for 40.
No, it's all the same kind of topic, so we can go. Brahmanati. Do one word by word, right? Brahmanati krame dosho dvadaśyam yad aparane yat kritva sadhu me bhuyad adharmo va na mam sprishyat. Brahmanati krame dosho dvadaśyam yadaparane yad kritva sadhu me bhuyad adharmo va na mam sprishyat. Brahmanati krame dosho dvadaśyam yad aparane yad kritva sadhu me bhuyad adharmo va na mam sprishyat. Brahmanati krame dosho dvadaśyam yad aparane yad kritva sadhu me bhuyad adharmo va na mam sprishyat. Anyone like to chant? Anyone else, ladies? Or
Brahmana Pikrame Dosho Dvādaśīṃ Yanaparane Yadvidvāsā me bhūyāt Dharmo Namamshe.
anyone online?
Brahmanati krame dosho Dvādaśīṃ yadaparane Yat kritva sadhu me bhūyāt Adharmo varnamam spriset.
Brahmanati krame dosho Tadāśam yad aparane Jat kritva sadhu me bhūyāt Adharmo vana mam sprishet.
Okay. And then the Sanskrit for the 40 is Basa Kavile Nata Karishe Brataparanam Ahur Abakshanam Vipra Yasitam Nasitam Chatat. And translation. The king said to transgress the laws of respectful behavior toward the Brāhmaṇas is certainly a great offense. On the other hand, if one does not observe the breaking of the fast within the time of Dvādaśī, there is a flaw in one's observance of the vows. Therefore, O Brāhmanas, if you think that it will be auspicious and not irreligious, I shall break the fast by drinking water. In this way, after consulting with the Brāhmanas, the king reached his decision, for according to Brahminical opinion, drinking water may be accepted as eating and also as not eating. Purport. When Maharaj Ambarīṣa in his dilemma consulted the Brāhmanas about whether he should break the fast or wait for Durvāsā Muni, apparently they could not give a definite answer about what to do. A Vaishnava, however, is the most intelligent personality. Therefore, Maharaj Ambarīṣa himself decided, in the presence of the Brāhmanas, that he would drink a little water, for this would confirm that the fast was broken, but would not transgress the laws receiving a Brāhmana. In the Vedas, it is said, Aposnati tan, naivasitam, naivasnasitam. The Vedic injunction declares that the drinking of water may be accepted as eating or not as eating. Sometimes in our practical experience, we see that some political leader, adhering to satyagraha, will not eat but will drink water, considering that drinking water would not be eating. Maharaj Ambarīṣa decided to act in this way. What political leader is Prabhupada referring to here? Gandhi. Om Agyanti Marandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmintai Smai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So for better or for worse, life in this material world isn't black or white. There's a lot of gray. And does anyone know what that means?
For better or for worse?
No, black or white or gray. Does that, you know what that was referring to? I just want to make sure, because it could be something you're not familiar with. You know what that means? In other words, black or white means very definite. So this is the way it is and so on. But gray means there's some room in there for some interpretation, or it may not be exactly clear. Some gray areas. What to do, what not to do, what to think, what not to think. So that's the word used here is dilemma. There's a dilemma here because he's not exactly sure what to do, because you can be absolutely sure when he asked the Brahmins, a bunch of them had different opinions. You get a bunch of Brahmins together, oh my goodness. You know, it's unbelievable. So just like I do weddings, and actually in the last month or two, I've had 2 Brahmins give me their opinion about what I should do and not do. One was a South Indian wedding, and the mother of the bride, her brother, was a South Indian Brahmin, and he saw the wedding procedure, and he had a whole page of comments about how to change it. And we took some of the advice, but not much of it, because I have my own Brahmins who give me advice. So everyone's got a different opinion. And then this last wedding I just did in Phoenix, at lunch I was sitting there having a little Jain food, and an elderly man sat next to me. He said, I used to be a Jain pundit, and I did weddings for many, many years. I'm retired now. But let me tell you something about the wedding you just did. And he had to tell me about my wedding. He said, but I came late, so maybe I missed some of it. So we had a whole discussion, and the point being is everyone's got their opinion. You get a bunch of, in general, you get anyone together, everyone's got an opinion, right? That's just the way it is. Krishna has an opinion too. What the hell is that in Sanskrit? Me mata? How do you say, in my opinion? Krishna says, my opinion. Mataha. Krishna's got an opinion. Thing is, Krishna's opinion is the absolute truth. Like that. So that's the difference. We ought to listen to what Krishna has to say. But King Ambarīṣa turns to the Brahmins. What am I supposed to do? There's a dilemma here. There's a gray area, because some people would say that there's no way in the world should you eat anything until your guest has arrived. You don't eat before a guest. There's some etiquette there. But then again, I just observed this year-long Kartik and then Ekadasi fast and Vrata, and to end it properly, you have to break the fast at a certain time, or it's considered null and void. It's interesting. I forget what that's called. And the Indians here in the audience, they may know there's a name for that period you're supposed to break the fast. And just like on our calendar, it's there. Every Dvādaśī, you break the fast usually it's between 6 something and 10 something, but sometimes it's like you got like 30 seconds, and Dravida comes running out in the temple room with halava for everyone. You got 30 seconds, Prabhu.
We had that once, and I said, line up outside, I'll have a little cup of halva.
Yeah.
And we'll try to...
Quickly, like that. So what to do? On one hand, you don't want to offend the Brahmin. On one hand, you don't want to offend Krishna, because he's performing this penance and austerity and brata to please the Lord. So what to do? Is there a way out of this dilemma? So the discussion was there, and the solution came up about water. Water is considered, if you drink water, you're breaking the fast, but not really breaking the fast. So that mean that saying about drinking water underwater on a fast day, are you really cheating? I guess only if it's supposed to be Nirjal. On a Nirjal Ekadasi, that would be cheating, but otherwise you're fine. So what to do? Because sometimes people ask. In fact, I just did a ceremony last week, and the devotee asked me about fasting until after the puja was done, because it was midday puja and so on. And I explained that there's fasting, different levels of fasting, and they're all considered bona fide. In other words, you can fast from everything, even water, nirjal. Just fast from everything. Or if you're not able to do that, you can take something light. Maybe some fruit, Prabhupada would say. Some fruit or some milk. That's, no grains, like a Ekadasi fast. Or at least some water, like it's being said. And that's considered not breaking the fast. So you have to be practical. You don't, like I tell people, sometimes they'll ask about weddings. It's come from a strict family, and the bride and groom are wondering about, do we have to fast? And I said, well, if you need to take something so you don't look so unhappy during the wedding, take a little something. You don't want them to look like the last thing they want to do is get married. I'm so hungry, right? So tell them take a little fruit or yogurt or something. Gotta look good. It's your day. So now, one important point here, Prabhupada makes right in the beginning is, as a Vaishnava, however, is the most intelligent personality. So an experienced person, a devotee especially, because they're always trying to, here's the thing, because they're always trying to please Krishna, their decision is the best. There's all these other, you can call them material or even spiritual calculations, but one who is trying to please Krishna, whatever that decision, that's the best. What's going to please the Lord the most? And devotees are in tune to that. Maharaj Ambarīṣa is a Mahabhagavata, a great authority in the line of devotional service, and he knew exactly what to do. I guess maybe he was just engaging these Brahmins just to get their opinion, but he knew exactly what to do. And he took a little bit of water. He knew that's fine. I did not transgress either of these situations. Everything is fine. And of course, I don't know, do you want me to read ahead up until the next purport? Do you want me to do that? So the next, you're giving class tomorrow. Do you want me to just read it up until it actually comes to a purport? More of the story? Because there's like 3 verses here with no purport. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't, yeah, you can do this.
Okay. So as far as etiquette, I'll just leave it alone. As far as etiquette, what's the proper etiquette? And that's always a consideration, that we're doing the right thing. And just like the one Mataji, it's always quoted in a letter to Srila Prabhupada about taking care of Tulsi Devi. She had all these questions and so on. And Prabhupada's also answer was that it's common sense. And then Prabhupada said, and if you don't have any common sense, please ask someone who does. Ask them. So what they said, was it Mark Twain who said the only thing common about common sense is not very common, right? So
Anyway, what do I advise you to do? Just take a sip of water, and then whatever you do after that is going to be
here, okay. Etiquette. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu it says that the big ornament of a devotee is the etiquette, our etiquette. That's such a nice devotee, but the ornament or the good are good qualities. That's what makes a good devotee. He's always such a nice devotee, but this, that, this, that, and no. It's our etiquette and our relationship with other devotees. And of course, this particular pastime is Maharaj Ambarīṣa and the etiquette of what you do when a guest comes. And you can say, in this pastime it shows that Maharaj Ambarīṣa, he was perfectly in line with proper etiquette. But his guest wasn't. What do you do when you have a guest who is obnoxious? What is that saying about comparing a guest with fish? Do you know? You know that saying? They say a guest is good for about 3 days. Like fish, after 3 days they start smelling. Like that. So the basic principle, and even sannyasis, you ever heard that one before? Maybe it's a New England saying. Guess, you stay about 3, because after 3 days it starts to stink. So you stay with someone, and sannyasis are only supposed to stay for about 3 days, right? Because otherwise you can inconvenience. It starts becoming an inconvenience. And the fact that you read in the different biographies and Prabhupada and the devotees in India, when they first came, they were staying with life members, and sometimes Prabhupada had to reprimand the devotees because they were overstepping the etiquette of being a guest, demanding this and that and so many different. And of course, to the benefit and glory of the guests, there were such nice Vaishnavas and life members. They did everything they possibly could to make sure the devotees were comfortable. Prabhupada noticed they were overstepping that etiquette. So there's etiquette for a host or hostess, and there's the etiquette for a guest. Everyone has their proper etiquette or dharma, you could say, and we have to make sure we know what it is. If you have a guest coming, what's the proper etiquette? If you are a guest, what's the proper etiquette? It does vary from culture to culture. There's some cultures when you're invited to someone's house or something, you're supposed to bring a gift. Did you know that? Do you know that? Or how about if you go to the temple? What's the etiquette? It says over and over again, if you're visiting the temple, what's the etiquette? Do you bring something for the deities? Yeah, you're always supposed to bring something. Or visiting a saintly person, you're supposed to bring something. It's proper etiquette, like that. According to your means. So there's just varieties of etiquette and so on. And in this particular pastime, we see that Durvāsā Muni really failed it as a guest, the etiquette, like that. He just because he made the mistake of visiting someone he was very envious of. No, but he's envious of Maharaj Ambarīṣa. He's envious of him, and it all comes out. It all came out. So one lesson there is don't go stay with people you're envious of. Why would you do that anyways? Except to make trouble. Just like, who was in the Chaitanya Charitamrita who came to Puri and made a big, big row and stink about stuff? What was his name? Begins with an R. Ramachandra Puri is one of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's god-uncles, like that. And unfortunately, because of his offenses to his spiritual master, he'd become a very nasty person, always finding fault with everyone, and no one really liked to be around him because he's just a fault finder. And he would go out of his way to find fault. You know how he would do it? And he would arrange for you to come and take prasadam. Oh, come and take lunch. That's come and I'll feed you. That's a Vaishnava etiquette. You're feeding others, right? You make an arrangement for someone's prasadam, they make arrangement for you. Just like once Prabhupada, in his quarters in Vrindavan, Jamuna Devi cooked one day for Prabhupada for lunch. And Shruti Kirti said, oh, it's very, very nice. And Prabhupada said, tomorrow you cook for her. Like that. There's be reciprocation, like that. You cook for her. So that's the etiquette, cooking and so on. But Ramachandra Prabhu would invite you. Okay. How much time I got left? Okay, that's a 5-minute warning in Dharma. Like that. And he would feed the devotee very nicely, but then encourage the devotee to overeat. So no, devotees would control. Most of them were sannyasis and so on. No. Take some more. It's Jagannath Prasad. Take. And the devotee would overeat, and then just when the devotees finished overeating, he would say, you followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's true, you just overeat all the time. You just overeat. He just made him overeat, now he's criticizing for overeating. And it's just like, so I can't win with this devotee. So they were avoiding him and so on, and then he started criticizing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the ants in his room. It must mean, if you see ants, it must mean you're eating too many sweets. This and that, and so many different things. So is be very, very careful about our etiquette. Now, one thing about guests, actually we can, I don't know if we get to all of it, but actually there is something in here about okay, here it is, about etiquette for people visiting the temple. You want to hear it? This is from a BIHE seminar by Bhakti Chu Maharaj in Vaishnava etiquette. So, one thing it says here, it says, serving guests and life members, a Vaishnava's heart is very pure, and a pure-hearted person is extremely magnanimous. So one's Vaishnavism will be judged by the degree of his magnanimity. So in general, this is Prabhupada about the people coming to the temple. Any guest who visits are Srila Prabhupada's guests. As his servants, it's our pleasure and duty to serve them. The arrival of a guest is a chance to introduce a conditioned soul to Srila Prabhupada or relish Vaishnava association. Vaishnavas feel joy and gratitude to be blessed with such an opportunity. Krishna consciousness is synonymous with personalism. We need to step beyond the bodily conception. Remember that everyone is a part and parcel of Krishna and is very dear to him. We show this by practically, 1, welcoming the guest with sweet words, a seat, and prasad. If no prasadam is available, at least a glass of water should be offered. 2, being prepared to give our time in sincere concern. 3, remaining Krishna conscious in our discussions and dealings. 4, thanking the guest for his visit and inviting him to please come again. Okay, essentially our mood should be one of a loving exchange. So, because of the time. So it's a little etiquette there. I mean, what I had planned, and if you want to borrow the book, you can, because it talks about atiti and prasad and feeding and so on. There's a whole section here on honoring prasadam and serving prasadam, how to do that properly and so on. But we have grown up in a culture that I mean, it has its etiquette, but it's a horrible etiquette. It's the etiquette of the mlechas and yavanas, and at best sudras. And what kind of etiquette is that? So we have to be we're in training how to be the etiquette of a Vaishnava and so on. And this is very, very pleasing and very, very attractive. What's that saying about people don't see much, they see more what you do than what you say? Something like that? But you care, there you go. Like that. So I'm going to open up for questions and comments now. It's 8:28. Yes.
Just one comment on the pastime of Ramachandra Puri. He was just, so offensive, obviously, especially even to Lord Chaitanya. But Lord Chaitanya followed carefully the etiquette because he was his guru's godbrother. So he said, "Oh, you're eating too much," so he stopped eating so much. So the devotees couldn't cook all that; he would just take very little. And finally, when he left, it was a big sigh of relief from all the devotees that they could finally cook for Lord Chaitanya again. But Lord Chaitanya followed it to a T, even though it was so offensive. And he said, "Oh, okay," because he was on the level of his guru. Ishwara Puri's guru. That's why he's called Puri, Ramchandra Puri.
Now, one can bring up the question, maybe it's a discussion point. Someone say, what does it matter? All this etiquette, we follow the etiquette, we don't follow the etiquette, every country's got its own etiquette. There's, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. Does it really, really matter? Does it really matter? What's the etiquette of a brahmachari or a sannyasi or a grihastha or a woman or a man, or just like in the presence of a senior person? Should you offer respect to seniors? Yeah, come on. Can we all just get along? And all this etiquette fluff is just, it's all made up anyways. Why do we, in other words, why do we need etiquette in social dealings? Why do we need etiquette in social dealings? Does anyone want to venture an answer to that? Who's got a microphone?
Because especially amongst devotees, the means by which you advance is through association, and the etiquette it creates an open channel with. If someone is aloof and he's offended you, you don't want to hear from him, you don't want to talk to him, But the whole idea is that the purpose of this society, I just heard Prabhupada talk about it, is to give people a chance to come together, hear about Krishna, relate to each other. And if you've dealt nicely with someone, and they feel comfortable, they feel enlivened to be there, then they're more likely to hear from you, and you're more likely to have an effect on them. So otherwise, the society doesn't work unless there's a great consciousness of pleasing the guests. As Prabhupada said, give them some prasadam, give them some prasadam. And you see, this day we come out, and some guest comes and you give them prasadam. That's a wonderful way of opening a channel of communication and keeping it open.
As Bhakti Chumara said, personalism. In other words, etiquette's there in society to bring about a very peaceful atmosphere and a very pleasing atmosphere between people, so they can actually friendly and loving relationships, to bring that out. And if it's not there, then those things close down. They close down. So where there's not proper etiquette, then that society becomes very hellish and unpleasant and difficult, painful. Wars start, right, between people and countries, and so there's got to be some etiquette. That's a sign of a culture. Culture means to organize society in such a way where people are very, very peaceful and friendly towards each other. Like that.
I can't resist this. I learned so much on my walk, So there's these two main churches up here. If you walk up Cass, right? Louis is now taking a walk. He sees them. You've got the St. Bridget's Catholic Church, with that statue of Jesus with St. Bridget. And then you go on and you get Christ Lutheran Church. And they have a big sign outside. that everyone is, and it's interesting. I was thinking, well, maybe we should try to adopt it. It said, you are seen, we're talking about guests, you are seen, you are welcome, you are valued, you are loved. But then they end with like a weird thing, you are love. What does that mean? But at least the first 4 or 5 are very, they also see the importance of it in the congregation.
And of course, as Vaishnavas, we see everyone as part and parcel of Krishna. So it's an absolute platform for proper etiquette. So any other comments or questions?
You mentioned this point, which is somewhere in the CC, about like the measure of a devotee, or the ornament. I think you put it, the measure of a devotee is their character. And I was thinking that when I first started staying in the ashram here, Nityagora Prabhu, I don't know if he saw, I don't know what the basis was. I didn't bring it up to him. He just one day said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And then he had me go on a walk with him, and I was thinking, okay, what's on his mind? Tell me to take a hike, and he said, I'm totally paraphrasing this, but it stood out to me for some years. He was just encouraging me, saying, I've seen some of the ways some of the older devotees kind of deal with you at the temple, and so I'm just, I don't know what you're thinking, but I just want to give you this advice, that try not to measure devotees based on, kind of their personality, and if maybe they're angry, or maybe they're impatient, or maybe they're, this and that. Try to measure devotees based on how much service they're doing. Let that be your measure, and so don't be discouraged when you see devotees acting like this, like that. Just try to instead see how much service are they doing, and let that be your measure. And at least, at that time, even though I wasn't seeking out any, but I tried to keep that in mind. I thought, so I tried to keep that in mind. Let me appreciate, let that be the measure. But then you get this point that the measure isn't exactly how much service one's doing. There is something to say for the measure being the character that one is, like the Vaishnava qualities one has. So is there a neat way to square that, or would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, well, both things are there. Our service and our personality. So in the event that, because we're all works in progress, there may be faults in a devotee, but they are rendering a lot of service, and that it does take into account. But don't ever use that as an excuse for not developing good qualities. I'm doing all this work, blah, blah, blah. Both have to be there. Both have to be there. And Garga Muni. Prabhupada was in India, maybe Bombay, and this one devotee, actually in the Prabhupada memories, this one devotee was in charge of the book room, and Garga Muni just would break the lock and take whatever books he wanted to for, life membership or whatever. And the devotee came to Prabhupada and complained, and Prabhupada said, let him do whatever he wants. He's done so much service in the early days and for so many years, just let him do that. Because Prabhupada appreciated so much he did, and that's obviously, it's not a good thing to do, try to work something out, but Prabhupada just saying, sometimes you have to look at that, Or sometimes maybe someone's not doing a lot of service, but they're really sweet. Just like sometimes the boys would complain that so-and-so in India, he just chants all day long, bhajans and this and that. Nice, sweet devotee, just does that's all he does. And the boys are like, Tamal, this one say, I can't get him to do more service. And then Prabhupada said, what's wrong with chanting all day? Very sweet devotee, just chant all day long. So there's a balance. There's a balance there, but for us, as we all are trying to increase both the amount of service we do and also our Vaishnava qualities. But to protect ourselves from falling into the vast, deep, bottomless pit of Vaishnava aparad, we can adjust our mind by looking one way or the other way, just to protect ourselves from fault finding. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So. Are you forcing him to come up with something, or because he?
Just an addition. Yeah, I was thinking in relation to how much service we do, that for ourselves, as Dharmasetu Prabhu was mentioning, that for ourselves we really shouldn't think like that. It's really bad to think like that. Like, okay, I'm not really displaying Vaishnava qualities with anybody, but that's okay. I'm done so much service. I'm doing so much service. I've done years of service, and that's what's really important. So to see ourselves like that's like really bad, actually. Because, like Dharmasetu Prabhu was mentioned, we shouldn't take it as an excuse. But in relation to seeing others, well, it's as you were mentioning, it's very good to see like that. That person has done so much service, and yeah, they may not be displaying certain Vaishnava qualities at certain times. And that might be disturbing or annoying or whatever, but they have done a lot of service, and that should be appreciated. And looking at the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I believe, he mentions that the most important quality is this surrender to Krishna, because you may not have all the other qualities. And I remember one devotee was joking about that. He was saying how, devotees are angry or this or that or whatever. Sometimes we may see that in devotees sometimes. And he was saying, but they have that quality of surrender to Krishna, and that's the most important thing, that they actually dedicate their life. There may be some faults like that. So to see people like that's good. But then in relation to ourselves, we shouldn't take that like, oh, I've done so much service and I don't have to have any Vaishnava qualities. So anyways, that's what I was thinking. And as Srila Prabhupada would say, he very famously it's said that, how do you tell one of my disciples? How can you tell someone's my disciple? Everybody knows the answer for that one, right?
Perfect gentleman and lady.
Yeah, that's...
Anything else? Overdone? You happy? Super happy. Okay. What do you think, we should end here? Or is that a gray area? We should end here, right? Is it time for Prasadam? Yes. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.